You are lying there, eyes half closed, finally. The room is dark. The baby is in your arms, almost asleep. And then, out of nowhere, tiny fingers find your skin, and they pinch, hard. You wince, you shift. You try to gently move their hand away. They pinch again, and somehow, impossibly, while pinching you with what feels like the grip of a small wrestler, they fall completely, peacefully asleep. You lie there in the dark, arm throbbing, wondering, what is wrong with my baby? Here is what no one has ever told you. Nothing is wrong with your baby. In fact, what just happened in your arms, and that pinching, that grabbing, that relentless little grip, is one of the most sophisticated neurological systems in all of human development. Scientists at the National Institutes of Health, researchers studying infant brain wiring at some of the most respected institutions in the world, they have looked directly at this behavior. And what they found will completely change how you feel the next time those tiny fingers find your arm at bedtime. Section 1, the system, no one talks about. Before we go into the science, I want you to do something. Think about the last time you were truly anxious, maybe before a big presentation, maybe in a waiting room, maybe at 2 a.m. with a sick child, and think about what your hands did. Did you grip something? A chair arm, a phone, another person's hand? Did you squeeze? Of course you did. Because when the human brain is transitioning between states, between alert and safe, between wakefulness and rest, it reaches for something solid, something real, something it can feel. Your baby is doing the exact same thing, only here's the difference. Your baby's brain is doing it at a level of intensity that makes your adult version look like a gentle suggestion. Here is why. Section 2. The science of the pinch. A landmark study published in the journal Frontiers in Neuroscience and later reviewed in depth by the NIH revealed something extraordinary about infant somatosensory development. That is a complicated word. Let me break it down. Somatosensory means the brain's ability to process physical touch and sensation. And in a newborn baby, this system is the most advanced sensory system they have. Before they can see clearly, before they can hear perfectly, before they can understand a single word you say, your baby can feel. Mechanosensory neurons, and the nerve cells responsible for processing touch, are the very first sensory system to develop in the human fetus. Your baby has been feeling the world since before they were born. Now, here is where the pinching comes in. As your baby begins to drift towards sleep, during that fragile, uncomfortable transition between wakefulness and unconsciousness, their brain enters a state of enormous vulnerability. The prefrontal cortex, the part of the brain responsible for rational thought and emotional regulation, begins to go offline. Stress hormones like cortisol begin to fluctuate. The nervous system is in flux, and the brain does what every mammalian brain does when it feels vulnerable. It reaches for safety. For your baby, safety has one address: you, your skin, your warmth, your physical presence. The pinch is not aggression. It is not a bad habit. It is your baby's nervous system sending one urgent signal to the brain: I can feel them. They are here. I am safe. I can let go now. Section 3. The oxytocin loop. Now here is where the science becomes genuinely extraordinary. When your baby's fingers make contact with your skin, even in that small, pinching way, a cascade of neurochemical events begins inside their brain. The mechanosensory neurons in their fingertips send signals racing up through the spinal cord to the insular cortex, a region of the brain deeply connected to emotional processing, social bonding, and feelings of safety. And then the insular cortex does something remarkable. It triggers the release of oxytocin. Oxytocin, you may know it as the bonding hormone, the love hormone, is the single most powerful chemical signal for safety in the mammalian brain. Research published in PMC confirms that physical touch between infant and caregiver directly activates oxytocin release in the infant brain, and oxytocin does several things simultaneously. It lowers cortisol, the stress hormone, almost immediately. It slows the heart rate. It deepens breathing. It signals the nervous system that the threat level is 0. And critically, it makes the transition into sleep not just possible, but smooth, natural, and neurologically complete. Your baby is not pinching despite wanting to sleep. If your baby is pinching in order to sleep, the pinch is the mechanism. The pinch is the key that unlocks the door. Section 4, the Harlow connection. In the 1950s, a psychologist named Harlow conducted one of the most famous and most heartbreaking and misstepped experiments in the history of developmental science. He separated infant rhesus monkeys from their mothers and gave them 2 artificial substitutes. One substitute was made of cold wire but held a bottle of milk. The other was made of soft cloth but offered no food at all. Every instinct of traditional science predicted the infants would choose the wire mother. Food is survival. Food is everything. They were completely wrong. The infant monkeys spent the overwhelming majority of their time clinging to the cloth mother. They ran to the cloth mother when frightened. They used the cloth mother as a base from which to explore. When afraid, they did not go toward food. They went toward touch. Physical contact was not a comfort, it was a requirement, a biological necessity, as essential to survival as food itself. Your baby pinching you at bedtime is a direct expression of this same ancient wiring. It is millions of years of mammalian evolution saying physical contact with a trusted caregiver is not optional. It is how the nervous system learns to regulate itself. It is how the brain learns what safety feels like. And every time you allow that contact, every time you do not pull away, every time you stay present, you are literally wiring your baby's brain to recognize safety at a neurological level that will last their entire life. Section 5, the fine motor secret. Now, here is something that almost no parenting content has ever covered, and this part genuinely surprised me when I found it. The pinching behavior is not only about emotional regulation, it is also about something neuroscientists call fine motor consolidation. Here is what that means. During the day, your baby is practicing something at a rate that is almost impossible to comprehend. Every time they grab a toy, every time they reach for your face, every time they curl their fingers around your thumb, their brain is building what scientists call motor engrams, neural pathways that encode specific movements into permanent muscle memory. And when does consolidation happen? When does the brain permanently wire those pathways? During the transition into sleep. Research from Columbia University's Developmental Neuroscience Lab confirms that motor learning consolidation, the process of turning a practiced movement into a permanent skill, happens precisely during the drowsy hypnagogic state, the state your baby is in right before sleep. So when your baby pinches you at bedtime, they are not just seeking emotional safety, their brain is also simultaneously running a background process, consolidating the fine motor movements practiced during the day, turning the grab, the reach, the pinch itself into a more precise, more refined, more controlled skill. Your baby is practicing becoming human, and they are doing it on your arm. Section 6. What parents should know. So what does all of this mean for you, practically, tonight? First, do not pull away. I know that sounds simple, but understanding why changes everything. When you allow that small hand to hold its grip, even when it pinches, you are not being manipulated. You are providing the neurological anchor your baby's brain genuinely needs to complete the transition into sleep safely. Second, understand that this phase is temporary and developmental. The pinching behavior typically peaks between 4 and 10 months of age, precisely when fine motor development is most explosive. As your baby's fine motor control improves and their nervous system matures, the need for this specific form of sensory anchoring naturally diminishes. It ends on its own, because the brain has been successfully built. Third, if the pinching is genuinely painful, you can redirect without withdrawing. Place your baby's hand on soft fabric, on a textured toy, on something they can grip with the same sensory satisfaction. The brain needs the sensation of gripping something real, but it does not specifically require your skin. a consistent bedtime comfort object, can serve the same neurological function. Fourth, recognize what you are actually doing at bedtime. When you sit in that chair in that dark room with that tiny hand gripping your arm as they drift away, you are not just putting your baby to sleep. You are building their stress regulation system. You are calibrating their cortisol response. You are teaching their nervous system what safety feels like. You are laying down the neurological foundation for emotional resilience that researchers have tracked all the way into adolescence and adulthood. That is not a small thing. That is everything. I want to leave you with this. There is a moment, you know the moment I mean, when the pinching stops, when the grip relaxes, when that small hand goes soft and open in your palm, when the breathing slows, when the weight of them changes. From alert and present to completely, utterly surrendered to sleep. Neuroscientists call what happens in that moment successful nervous system downregulation. The cortisol has dropped, the oxytocin has peaked, the motor consolidation is running, the brain construction is underway. Parents call it something else, and they call it the most beautiful thing they have ever felt. Both are right. Your baby pinched you tonight because you are the safest thing in their entire world, because their brain, in its ancient and extraordinary wisdom, knows exactly where to reach when it needs to let go. That small grip, the one that left a mark on your arm, is the highest compliment a developing brain can pay. It means you are home. If this gave you something tonight, a little more understanding, a little more peace, share it with one parent who needs to hear this. And subscribe to Parenting IQ. Because every week we take the science that lives inside research journals and we bring it home to you where it belongs. See you in the next one.